Hey Neon Nation, welcome back for some more Cyberpunk. Today we'll be looking at melee weapons in Cyberpunk 2077, including Katanas, Mantis Blades, some weapons you might have missed from the gameplay demo, modules for melee weapons, what kind of melee weapons we can see from the pen and paper game 2077 is based on, as well as looking at how the melee system will work. So if you guys don't already know, Cyberpunk 2077 will feature a fully fledged melee combat system. This means melee combat will be complete with blocks and parries, and the ability to stagger or get staggered by your opponent. Looking at the sequence with Trauma Team in the demo might give you a better idea on how that will look. Kyle Rowley also spoke on how The Witcher 3 will influence Cyberpunk's melee combat in a recent interview, saying, "We learned quite a lot from combat in Witcher 3, and we're translating that to lessons we learned in gameplay about how to do melee and to try to transfer that to Cyberpunk. Obviously, it's very different in the fact that we're doing it from a first-person perspective rather than a third-person perspective, but the lessons we learned in Witcher we can translate." Now, whether this means we'll be able to complete the entire game without firing a bullet and using melee-only builds could be anyone's guess, but there are some things that we do know. First, we have confirmation that Katanas will be in the game. We can see that in V's apartment, she has a weapon bunker with 2 slots, seemingly for katanas. We also see a Maelstrom ganger drop a sword, possibly being a katana after a blunderbuss shot to the torso. Now in the Gamescom demo, which was slightly different than the one CD Projekt Red revealed, we learned that there were katanas with specific modules, just like the modules and attachments we can add to our guns in the game. The Gamescom demo weapon had a magnetic field mod, which was able to deflect bullets away from your character. The long blade could also be paired with a bunch of movement abilities, with V sliding across the floor and dismembering a Maelstrom member. Dismemberment will be a key feature associated in melee combat. Mantis Blades are also something we've seen in the game. From the very first teaser trailer to the poster on Victor's wall to seeing it in action as a high-level ability, the Mantis Blades seem to have evolved slightly from the initial teaser trailer. We see Mantis Blades stylistically look a little different in the E3 trailer and the gameplay demo versus that first teaser trailer. Does this mean that they've gone back to the drawing board with the design of these blades, or that there are a variety of different types? Now these blades, which are based on the praying mantis, are not only for slicing and dicing enemies, but will also allow us to traverse walls and scuttle along building sides. We do also see a blunt sword-like object being held by a ganger in a concept screenshot. Let's move on to the melee weapons we could see in Cyberpunk 2077 from the Cyberpunk source material. I think we'll see most of the basic melee weapons like clubs, knives, brass knuckles, and shurikens. Shurikens would be my most wanted out of the basic ones from Cyberpunk 2020 and 2013 because I think they'd really add another projectile-based way to play that kind of combines shooting and melee elements together. Nightsticks are the melee weapon of choice of the police of Night City and are equipped with 2 hidden extras for dealing with street scum and thugs. The business end has a taser or hidden mace sprayer that can be set off by a trigger on the side handle. These are manufactured by Excalibur, who seem to make a lot of melee weapons in Night City. Kendachi also has a variety of melee weapons including whips, katanas, knives, and canes. The most interesting, however, is the M33 Power Sword, which vibrates its molecular crystal blade 2,000 times per minute. Combined with its microscopically serrated edge, it can inflict some serious damage even to heavy armor modifications. It seems some of these swords and katanas in the 2020 universe are better at parrying and counterattacking than others, which could be reflective in their stats and their rarity in Cyberpunk 2077. Throwing knives are also part of the melee combat, which can be used for up-close strikes or thrown from a distance to disable the enemy. The Slam Dance Spawn Blade is a particularly nasty throwing knife which separates and fans out inside your enemy's body. You can also upgrade your wrist cybernetics to launch the throwing knives at a higher velocity than it can go thrown by hand. A Battleglove Gauntlet is also available in 2020 and gives you immense crushing and raw punching power. The Smart Whip, which is Cyberpunk's take on the Bullwhip, would be a neat addition in 2077 as it's essentially half cyberware and half weapon. You can use a Neuralink and interface plugs to connect to the Smart Whip to make it flex or rigid based on your mental control. This introduces some creativity in how you can approach your enemies. Finally, my favorite one out of the group is the Mystic Technologies Nunchaku Blade, which is a 60cm long staff with an extendable blade on the end. There's a release button on the side that splits the staff and forms a nunchaku. This has some incredible potential for chaining combos, which we've seen to a smaller degree in the gameplay demo and can really carve up your opponents. In conclusion, I hope 2077 takes melee combat seriously. This is a game where we choose how we play, and CD Projekt Red has stated we can play like a cybernetically enhanced ninja and assassin if we choose to. This would involve balancing melee combat to be just as rewarding and fun as shooting is, and I hope that's reflective in the gameplay with the vast array of melee weapons, mods, and perks that we have. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, subscribe to the arcade for everything Cyberpunk 2077.